Hey, it's Fitzdog radio time. I don't know what time that is for you. It could be the afternoon. Maybe you're walking the dog. Maybe you're working out. Maybe you make love to your wife or your husband and you keep this on your headphones. Whatever it is, I'm glad to share it with you. Thank you for bringing me into your ears for so many years. Great podcast today. Louie Black, one of my heroes, one of my dear friends, is on the podcast. It's been a while. He's been on many times, but it's been a minute. I'm getting over the Giants' loss last night. Brutal. The New York Giants, who were, I think they were 14-point underdogs, and they took the Buffalo Bills to the final seconds of the game, and they blew it on the first half. They got this quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, who was a rocket scientist. That's what he got his degree in, rocket science, in college, and yet didn't know, with 14 seconds on the clock and no timeouts, not to run the ball at the 1-yard line at halftime, to kick a field goal, or to try to throw it so the clock stops if the guy drops the fucking ball. Anyway, they lost. It was very sad. I'm not going to belabor it. It was a good football day otherwise. My Rams won, got the Chargers tonight. And I don't know if you guys are football fans, but this is an exciting time of the year because anybody's still in it. I'm still in my pool. I had 4 entries into the pool, a survivor pool. 3 of them are knocked out. I got 1 left. And I won it last year. So who knows? We'll see. I'm spending a lot of time at home. Not really. I was just away, but I feel like I'm home a lot because I'm alone. My kids are both out working. My wife has had COVID for 2 weeks now and not showing any signs of getting better. She's dragging. She's flu-like. It's brutal. It's really hard on me. And I hope you guys can keep me in your thoughts and your prayers. I'm sleeping on the couch. My daughter adopted a dog, or she's fostering a dog that sheds everywhere. I'm allergic. I'm sleeping on the couch. I'm fucking sneezing all night. Well, so is my wife, but she's got COVID. I've got allergies. It's hard. And I don't know what to do for her. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm shopping, but she's not getting any better. So we'll see. It's sober October in our house. My wife and kids are not imbibing or smoking or doing anything all month. My son has a tequila bottle on his dresser. He's waiting for Halloween night to break out. I got the tequila bottle. I did a benefit this week for Martin Lawrence. Did a benefit. I was kind enough to ask me to be on, and it raised a lot of money. Had some big name acts. It was a lot of fun. And they gave us each a tequila bottle. I can't remember the name, but it's like a $200 bottle of tequila, and I don't drink. So I bought it home, and I gave it to the family, and they're going to gobble that shit down soon. I miss out. My family parties a lot. There's a lot of drinking around the house. There's a lot of merrymaking. And I'm just like the guy who cleans up. I should be the fun guy. I can't wait till I'm 65. I'm going to start drinking again. You'll see. You'll notice a difference in the podcast. Or I should say, the lack of podcast. At the benefit, it was pretty funny because I got off stage and then somebody was like, Obama's daughter is in the audience, right? And I'm like, what? Like, I forgot both of them moved here. Sasha and Malala? Is that her name? I don't know. But they moved here, and one of them was at the show, and I was doing jokes about somebody coming on somebody's tits, and I felt like, oh, I wouldn't have done that. And then someone goes, well, she's seen it all. I'm like, I don't think she has. I think we got to protect her. I'm about to do a radio tour for the Road Dogg movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on all the streamers. Check out the Road Dogg starring Doug Stanhope. It's a great watch. It's dark and it's fun. It's really well done. Check it out. And I'm going to do a radio tour to promote it, I think, this week. I'm also coming out to you guys in D.C. I'll be at the Arlington Draft House. All my cousins are coming out. I always talk about Denny McCarthy, my cousin who's the golfer. His whole family, the McCarthys, are coming out. And then my cousin Terry Ann and her husband Bob, who are the most fun people you've ever met. They're driving up from like 3 hours away. I think they're in Richmond, and they're driving up to D.C. for the show. And then Magoobies in Baltimore on October 22nd. Houston at the Riot, November 3rd and 4th. Bakersfield, Austin. I'm taping my special at the Mothership, November 17th through the 19th. Come on out, Austin. San Francisco at the Punchline, November 30th through December 2nd. Those are going to sell out. Get your tickets now. Fort Worth in December. Atlanta in January. All tickets at fitzdog.com. We got I'm going to skip the overheards, and let's get straight to why, if you're going to see me, I don't know if you can see me on Game Time, but Game Time is the way you should be getting your tickets for all your sporting events, all of your concerts, all of your theater. It is a way to not stress out. Don't worry that you're not getting a good price. The price will come to you with Game Time. You wait it out. They got these flash deals and these last-minute tickets, and you can check out your seats from the app is amazing. It's so easy to use. Couple of taps, it downloads. You don't have to transfer. You don't have to print. It's all there for you. They got a guarantee if you find tickets in the same row and section for less. So don't hesitate. Right now, I'm looking at tickets I'm going to Nashville tomorrow, and we're going to see Jason Isbell and Wheeler Walker Jr. Looking at those tickets, I'm going to get them on Game Time. I'm going to save money and, have some fun with your life. I don't care how much savings you have. Going to see live entertainment, there's nothing better. And now Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying the tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Fitzdog for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code FITZDOG for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Let's get to him. Louis Black, he's a 2-time Grammy Award-winning comedian, actor, writer. He's got a new special out called Tragically I Need You, and he's on a big tour as well. You know him from The Daily Show. I think he's been on The Daily Show like from the beginning, and he's survived like 3 hosts, and he's got a rant cast. What else? He's been in a lot of movies, Inside Out, Man of the Year. I don't know. He's done a lot, but he's one of the greatest living comedians today, and I'm so happy that he is on the podcast. We had a great talk last week at the Comedy Store. Here he is, the great Louis Black. My guest, Louis Black, sits in the green room of the main room at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, California, Hollywood, California. He's never performed here, which blows my mind.
Yes, I've made it. This is really thanks to Greg. I finally, after years, get into the green room.
Right. This and Gladys's on 51st Street in New York.
Yeah.
That was the first place I ever did stand-up in New York. What's the first place you ever did? Well, you were a West Beth guy before you were a comedy club guy, right?
No, I was West Beth, but no, I was not doing comedy clubs, but I would go around to places that would do, before I got to West Bank, I ran another room, which was called Sylvette's.
Oh, yeah.
And
right.
And it was in the West Village, and I had, I would literally wander around and find people, and there were people I knew who did stand-up, but I just arrived in New York. But I knew folks from before, from D.C. and around, but I was not a stand-up in any way. But I just wanted to run the room and kind of have a place and where I could do all sorts of things. And and I had all these very talented friends from theater. So we would do these things.
Rusty McGee?
But Rusty at that point wasn't in town.
Okay.
But he was, later we did work at the West Bank together, but I got, Susan Vega came in and sang. Chris Whitley, who was this really incredible, like, he was around for 5 or 6 years and passed away, a young kid who was like playing in the park. And I brought him in. He was, one of those, like a Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of a guitarist. And he would come in on his own and just play. Yeah. And then eventually did 4 or 5 albums. Right. And then I just bring people in.
What is this, like the late 80s?
This was, this was 82, 83, something like that, 84.
So not that much after the Improv was starting and doing the same kind of thing in terms of music and comedy together.
Yeah, and I was doing this because I didn't, when I didn't really, I wasn't up for, I didn't audition for those till later because I just wanted to run the room so that I could do something other than just stand up because I was theater driven.
Right.
And then, but I played this place, I can't think of the name of it, one of those, but there were those rooms like Gladys's. I played one of those rooms where it was music and some acts and some comics, and I did those from time to time.
Right.
After Sylvette's faded and before the West Bank came into being.
We're starting to say before we started this, I mean, I've been looking forward to seeing you so much because you're just like, I remember being in New York. I got to New York in like 92. I was in Boston the first few years. When I came down, I just remember there was always a fucking welcoming stool at Caroline's. It was like you and Attell and Gaffigan and Giraldo and Colin Quinn. And there was no friction about being a young comic. There was just this camaraderie instantly.
Yeah, it was fun.
You were very welcoming.
Yeah, well, because it was because I was making a living finally.
Right.
That helped. Yeah. No, but it was also the whole group was a great group, and everybody. I'll tell you what else helped define it is that everybody, all of us had a completely different voice.
Right.
There was no overlap.
Right.
From David Tell to me to Gaffigan. I mean, I can remember. And you watched each other enough that you could watch somebody grow.
Right.
So it was fun. It wasn't like you didn't watch people going, become shittier. They all got really better. And I'll never forget that Gaffigan started doing that inner voice.
Yes.
Where he's commenting on himself.
Yeah.
And to be able to go up and go, I said, that's huge, Jim. That's like that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well,
although I have to say, like, Meanie did that as well.
Yeah.
Meanie did the mother voice, commenting on the act as it went, but Jim did it in a way that was like completely different.
Well, it was two different voices. One was the mother voice, Kevin's, and Jim's was the kind of that little kid inside him going, "You're an asshole."
Yeah. Right. And then he would also alternate that with somebody in the audience who was like from Nebraska, who was like, "What are you doing? This isn't comedy."
Yeah.
But what's funny is when you're in New York, there's a back row that you sit in and you watch the comics. LA, nobody's in the room. They're all in the hallways, networking,
is that right?
Trying to get on each other's podcasts, whatever. And so, like, people aren't as aware. And I think because of that, comics don't push themselves to do new material as much. Because in New York, you're embarrassed if Dave Attell's sitting in the back and you're doing the same shit that you've been doing for 3 years.
Yeah.
So when you develop a new act, I know most of your stuff is really pen and paper. Before you go on the road, yours is like very much thought out and beat it. Now you come up with it on stage?
No, it's all on stage.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. Isn't that? I write on stage.
Wow.
And I'm glad I fooled you.
Yeah.
I really don't write it down. I think about it.
Right.
And I come up with an idea or something pisses me off. So recently it was, let's just say I just did this thing outside. It's band book week. And so I did this thing that I've been doing in the set where I've just started to talk about banned books.
Right.
So I was thinking, so it's banned books, and the first line that was in my head, was because, you want to ban your books because it's worked out so well for the Germans. So it's a stupid line, it's like, but it's such an easy setup, but it's also, I don't know how many people really said that.
Yeah.
And it's so simple. It's one of those things that I go, it's so simple, it's elusive in a way. I went, well, let's try that. And then they go, blah, and then I kind of just add on to that as I go along,
right.
And then they add on because the people what I write about is right. It's most of it's being written now without my help.
Yeah. They're giving you the premise.
Well, I mean, you're going to ban, you probably know, in Florida, you can't read a whole in high school unless there's a way in which you can, but it's difficult. You have to go through some rigmarole. They do not teach. You don't read a whole Shakespeare play. You only read sections.
Why? Because there's some sections they don't agree with.
Yeah.
No shit.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Because they're gay.
No, that I don't know. I don't know. But the ones like Macbeth, I guess the violence, whatever.
Suicide. Right?
Yeah, suicide. But,
to be or not to be.
But the one that was great is that it was what started me off was Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Which they banned.
Because she was underage?
Sex.
Yeah.
Not that she, that probably didn't cost much, but that they commit suicide at the end.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, that would be, so I'm fooling around now with, so if it's suicide, why wouldn't you go to suicide? Just show some modicum of intelligence. Instead, they're talking about the sex in it, and then I go on and on. And so it's finding, and then you start going back. So part of me goes back to when you got a whole audience that read it.
Yeah.
And 90% of them didn't understand it. So you've got this whole and then I start to find the jokes there.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I build something.
Right. And then it's almost like, a cat with a piece of yarn. Like once you give me that laugh, I'm going to chase it.
Yeah.
I'm going to, whatever instinct made you a comedian from day one, the adrenaline, the dopamine drip that you get from that laugh makes you go like, okay, what about this too?
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work, it doesn't hurt that much because the risk reward is so great.
Yeah.
When it hits,
it's huge.
Yeah. And then you listen to it later and you go, all right, that's good. And then you do it again and nothing.
Yeah.
And what do you do when that happens? Do you keep working it?
I keep working it. It's like, you try it, and then I try it again, and then by the third time, I tell them outright, you've now killed a joke. I've spent 2 weeks working this out, and you officially are the last ones you are the slaughterhouse, and we're done.
You're the Grim Reaper.
Yeah. But that's always the way I've kind of worked.
Dude, what a great special that would be if you took all those jokes. You put them in an hour.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But you flush them. That's the problem.
Yeah,
you don't even,
Yeah.
But that's so. So I fill my paper with like just little words that will remind me of what it is that I want to talk about.
Right.
There's some are a joke, so it's ... and I've got 3 or 4 words, and some are just here's the thought, and
so it never gets beyond that. There's never a document where you start to really lay out before a special or something all the words.
No, I mean I do. It's 90% bullet points before it. It gets written out. But I find this is what I find. If I start to try to memorize it, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Then it becomes I'm so worried about getting it right that I don't get it right. And then what broke it open in terms of that was as I went. I'm the only one who knows if it's right or wrong, schmuck. So just get up there and say it.
Right.
And if you screw it up, then go back. That was the great thing about doing those ones, the specials, was that you drop back 10 and go, okay, I screwed that up. We're going to do this again.
Right. And the crowd loves it.
And the crowd goes,
I think you and I did the very first season of the Comedy Central half-hour specials.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was me, you, Wanda Sykes, Mitch Hedberg, Sue Murphy. Remember Sue Murphy?
Wow, that's right.
She was great.
Did it tell?
I don't think it was a
No,
tell.
no, it wasn't.
And those were, at the time I thought, all right, this is just an extended premium blend. This is just like, no one's going to watch this.
Yeah.
Fucking people watch this. To this day,
Yeah.
I get more people coming out of shows going, 1997, your half-hour special. Like, I watched it over and over again. And nowadays, Comedy Central is like, The Daily Show is huge. People watch because they watch clips. But the specials, they only air them a few times.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not like a Netflix special where it gets viral and you can go to it anytime. And now your specials, you've done them all over the place, though, right?
Yeah, I've kind of wondered about
Epics and fucking.
I went to Epics. Well, because Epics made the offer. You kind of go, great.
Yeah.
And you're the first one, so they put all this stuff and energy into it. And then you go, well, this is interesting because they're using me as bait to get people to watch Epics, and then people aren't watching Epics. Yeah. And I did one that I did because it was kind of like when I was kind of in this sweet spot, and I was trying to get out. I really wanted HBO, and Netflix and the others didn't exist. Netflix didn't exist. Amazon Prime didn't exist, and so I basically it was a pay-per-view, and that was like minor suicide. But there was, and eventually we got it onto something that but it was like. There was no place to put it.
Right.
Comedy Central wasn't at that point. It was no, we're not doing these for a while, and all of that. And HBO HBO had the guy who was like my fan at HBO, whose name is going to escape me.
Chris Albert.
Chris Albert. Yeah. He was gone. They let him go, and when they let him go, boom, I was out.
Right. So, because when I think of HBO as a brand for comedy, you think immediately of Carlin. I mean, that's the guy. And then I think about who is the logical extension of George Carlin. It's you. I mean, that seems like that should have been your home all these years.
Well, it was 2 years. Both of them did really well. Yeah. And then it was like, and then they said, we're only doing people who have TV shows. That was what they told me. Well,
because that's what's the best stand-up comedy, right? People that do other shit.
Yeah, really. I mean,
right.
It was like, so, and this is, Netflix completely rejected me.
Yeah, always did. You never had a Netflix special. No shit.
Gee, we really, the line was, God, I don't know how Lewis got lost in the shuffle. Okay, all right.
You are the shuffle.
You idiots.
Yes.
And it was that kid, and we what's his name? The kid from
Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose name also escapes me, and he was put in charge, and it's kind of like, I never shit on you. I didn't do any. Come on.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
No, and then you look at the new specials coming out, and it's some kid from, a third world country that's been doing it for 6 years. And the entire thing is a premise.
Yeah.
It's all an autobiography. There's no jokes. And that's what they're going for. So the beautiful thing is you do a special now and you throw it up on YouTube and you hit all the podcasts and you're going to get 50 times the viewership you would have gotten on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
And you have total control of it. There's no notes. You decide when it drops.
That's the big thing. But that's the big thing. And then Amazon Prime. I put my stuff on Amazon Prime and then people had to pay for it because Amazon Prime wouldn't do it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You get a piece of that action when they pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, it was like, and I didn't have any choices. You guys, hello.
Yeah.
And then now with Amazon Prime, because I was trying to not go on YouTube, I'd like to have gotten Amazon Prime to be the one, and they have somebody who was producing at that point when I was trying to get this last one on, the one that's on YouTube. Plug, tragically, I need you. So they basically the one who was the producer, they hired a single producer, and you had to go with that producer, and in a sense, that producer owned it.
Yeah,
and I'm not doing that.
Right.
The one thing I've come out with is whatever I've lost in terms of things, I own everything.
Right. You mean now you do, but you didn't back then?
No, I did. I started to.
You always did?
No, not always, but I started to.
Right.
And then you work long enough, and the Comedy Central thing reverts back to you.
Right. Exactly. And the funny thing about Comedy Central is nobody's got a library like they do of comedy. They've got all of us when we started, when we were in the middle, when we were big.
Yeah.
And yet their website is unintelligible. It's all like this rich video that takes forever to download. There's a million ads. You got to watch 3 ads before you see a clip. And they've basically squandered the best opportunity to be the place for comedy online.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say that because I'm never going to get a special there, but, you know, so your last
But it's
special,
true, though, and it's whether it survives or not, because they always keep saying we don't know if Comedy Central's coming back.
Right.
And now that we're going through the strike thing, they don't know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
This only makes it crazier.
Well, I know that they went union back about maybe 12 years ago.
Well, longer, because I've been union on the Daily Show since I started.
Oh, so you get paid as a writer as well as a...
No, I got paid as SAG-AFTRA.
Oh, right, but I'm talking about the Writers Guild.
Oh, yeah, no, that's true.
I think the Writers Guild, because that's what becomes prohibitive for networks, because the Writers Guild is expensive.
Yeah.
Worth it, as we just saw.
Yes.
But it's an expensive union, and I know that Jon Stewart had to shut down the Daily Show for a while because it wasn't a Writers Guild strike, it was a Comedy Central strike of writers that walked off.
Right.
And I think they were off the air for a minute, and John got pretty pissed about it, which I thought was kind of ironic. He was this voice of the progressive left, and he was angry at his writers for asking for a union.
It's unbelievable.
So you've survived several hosts now on the Daily Show.
All of them.
Are you still doing it now?
Yeah, I did it right up until the, and through the pandemic I was doing it.
Wow.
But I wasn't doing it as many times, but I was doing it because literally this is, it was crazy because I've been on it 27 years. So if you add, so each year you get a raise. So I made enough money. I was making enough money per episode that they were going, okay, you're only going to do 5. That's it. But it was, and I'm supposed to, if we come out of the SAG-AFTRA strike, I will be, because right before the writers struck, I was supposed to come in 2 weeks later and host for 3 nights.
Oh, I heard that. Right. So you're still going to do that, I'm sure.
That's now they're saying, once the SAG-AFTRA thing is over.
Right. Well, look, you're a Jew. They need some diversity hires. You got to really play up that Jew thing.
I try. It's hard because people think I'm Italian.
I always did. Yeah, I always did for a long time. Same with Joy Behar. I always did just the opposite. I always thought she was Jewish, and she's actually Italian.
Yeah,
right, which drives her crazy. So the last special you did, that was great, the one coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
With you cleaning all the boxes at the beginning. Where did that come out on? Was that Amazon Prime?
No, that came out on YouTube.
Oh, it did?
Because that was the one, that was the fastest I've ever written a special.
Yeah.
6 months. Mm-hmm. It never happens. I mean, it'd take 2 years if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
6 months done, and then it took longer to find a place to put it, and finally it was like this is, my agents are, well, we couldn't get it on here, but YouTube is really the wave of the future, and that's what you really got to do, is you got to put it on YouTube. That way you're allowed. I said, I've been allowed to do this my entire career. I've been allowed.
Yeah.
Now this is going to give me freedom that I didn't. You're not going to have to get notes. I've hardly ever gotten notes.
Right.
Please, just can we try?
Yeah.
And they didn't. I said, and I really, part of me was like, you're lazy.
Yeah.
And this should have been done when I was getting ready to do the special. I mean,
build the hype. Lewis is working on a special 6 months. It's going to be fresh out of the pandemic.
It was, so I put it on YouTube, and then you go, well, it's got 1 million views or 1 million whatever, and that you kind of go, is it 1 million views or 1 million like they just listen
watch
for
30 seconds? Yeah. Well, you can track that. I think you can actually. YouTube has the what do they call it? The
logistics.
Whatever it is. We got 2 old guys sitting here trying to think of words.
Yeah, but especially words that really just escape us. Even before we got old, we wouldn't have known the fucking word.
I had this game show that I sold, and then it didn't get picked up, and I resold, and it was called Ask Granny.
That's great.
And it's a grandmother who comes into the living room, and she's talking to a bunch of people, and she's telling a story. and she keeps getting stuck. And she's like, so anyway, I was at that I was in the capital of Washington. What is it? What is it? And she goes like that, and you have to chime in and help her finish her story.
Did it work? Are they doing it?
No, it sounded like she had Alzheimer's. I think they were scared of it being like too Alzheimer's-y.
Oh, come on. That's the joke.
I know.
Especially since all you have to do is the intro is now kids do it.
Right.
Kids do it all the time.
Yeah.
Because because of the phones.
They've never read more than a paragraph in their lives.
Yeah.
And so nothing coherent sticks with them.
Yeah.
I got a son who's 22 and he's
You
reading.
have a 22-year-old son?
Yeah.
Now I feel old.
Yeah.
That's really freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, because...
Your kids are supposed to be, in my eye, they should be 14.
Yeah, right. Same with me. And so my son is trying to read War and Peace right now, and I'm like, all right, you haven't read a book since Huck Finn junior year of high school. How about like maybe some Kurt Vonnegut, maybe a little, Casey Boyle, but you're going to jump into War and Peace. So the tour you're doing now is fucking nuts, man. You're going like, that's why I want to ask you about your writing process, because when you're doing 4 nights in a row in theaters, and then you're going home for a couple days to wash your socks, and then you're coming back out again. And you're doing that for 6 months, basically. Yeah. So how much does the material morph over that time? I know you read things on stage every night, right?
Yeah,
you read
I don't do that anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No, it just became too much because because I was doing like an hour 10, and then I was going back and doing 20. So I was doing 90 minutes.
Opener.
No, I still had Stilson as opening.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and great to work with, and actually helps in terms of the writing.
Sure.
He really
one of the best writers in TV.
And one of the last specials, he said, put this at the end. This is your killer, and that's what you need. And it was like, I can't believe I'm like, you're kind of this close to it. And
no, what a gift to have an opening act that can help craft your act.
And who gives a shit? So,
no, this is a guy who, if people don't know Jeff Stilson, he's one of Chris Rock's go-to guys. Yeah. I remember Chris Rock once said, a lot of black guys get famous and they buy bling. He goes, I buy writers. Yeah. I mean, when he does a movie, there's Chuck Sklar is sitting there, and Frank Sebastiano and Stilson, and he's got this. I mean, there are no better writers than Chris Rock's writers. And Stilson is like one of the top
Stilson
guys.
is a major, and so it starts to morph just over time. So it's like I have like 3 things in a row that I know will be the right now are the center of it. And then I kind of know what I'm aiming for, that I've kind of picked up as we've gone along. And so then it's just kind of like adding in things that feed into that, and trying to find the final, what is the, what I'm trying to do in this special is to really kind of get to what it's like when what's happening is already funny and you're asking me to make it funny. It's already funny. Don't tell me to make banned books funnier than banned books already is.
Right.
And people go, well, that's not funny. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, the fact that they're banning Romeo and Juliet is comedy.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so indefensible. It's so over the top.
Yeah.
If you read about it, and I keep going, if you read it in a book, you'd be laughing.
Yeah, it's The Onion. You're competing with The Onion. Yeah. I mean, what do they come up with? The Onion can't top the shit that Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find that through line.
Yeah.
And that's really, and so over time, that's the clothesline, and I just keep throwing dirty wash. When I wash it, and I throw it up, and then it falls to the ground. I got to go back and wash it again.
So each special you've done, has there always been a through line and sort of a point to it?
I hope so. I mean, every special I've done, I hope tells a story.
Yeah.
That's really what I aim for.
Nobody does that. I mean, nobody does that on their specials. Once in a while, and somebody said to me, I think it was Neil Brennan, he goes, all you got to do is bring up one idea at the beginning, and at the very end, hit it again. And people go, oh, yeah, he was talking about diversity. He was talking about, equal rights or whatever it is. And, and again, like the other thing about specials is they say front load it. Put all your good shit in the first 15, 20 minutes because that's all. Nobody's watching an hour. There's your fans are watching an hour because you're a 1 hour comedian. Yeah. You're a guy that builds something and there's something. But when you talk about guys that are or women that are just doing jokes for 60 minutes, people are watching 20. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think the idea now of people putting out something shorter, like a bite-sized chunk of comedy for 15 minutes 4 times a year is starting to make sense. Yeah. That's the new thing people are doing.
Yeah, well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's just, you got to, people will, if it's an hour, if it's a solid hour, people will watch it, they turn it off. Or they watch it because it's that you enrage them, and they go, that son of a bitch, I knew he was a prick. Oh, he's a bigger prick than I, now I really realize what a son of a bitch he is.
Right.
But recently, one of my most favorite things and it's trying, this is the kind of part of what I'm trying to get through in this thing, that is that, and it's one of these things that sticks in my head, and it comes out about once every 3 shows. So I know eventually, because first off, I got to go find where I found it in you fall down those rabbit holes now where you kind of go, oh, there's something on the side of your email, and there's like a thing, and you go, oh, well, fuck, I'm going to look at it. Yeah. It's an ad for something. It's like you just stupidly start doing that rather than what you should do. So I was looking at something that I had done, some show. It was a response to the show. It was on my YouTube channel. These responses. One person came to the show and said they were disgusted by me. They could no longer be a fan. That I'd spent the whole night just Trump bashing. Mm-hmm. And it was, I don't need that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then literally the next was same show. I went to watch Louie last night. I can't tell you how disappointed I was. I was hoping that he'd spend the night bashing Trump. Right. He didn't say anything about him.
Right.
And you go, that's how fucked up we are.
Yeah. And it's how much we have to depend on. Let me turn off my phone. How much we have to depend on our own.
It could be maybe it's your agent telling us we've got real work.
It's fucking Netflix. They said we passed on black. We have space for you. But that's how much you have to depend on, which is why I really love watching comics that. A lot of people go, oh, I'm not a Republican. I'm a, what do they call themselves? Libertarians.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like, well, at least good. At least you're trying.
Yeah.
At least you're trying to figure it out on your own. Like Shane Gillis is fucking great. And his new special, he's pissing off everybody.
Yeah.
Because he does a Trump bit, but you go, wait, is he shitting on him or is he glorifying him? I'm not really sure. And then, there's this whole group of guys, young guys out of New York, young to us, Sam Morrell and Mark Normand. And they're really doing stuff that's hitting both sides.
Yeah.
But it's them. It's what they really think. And that's all you can do.
Yeah. It's really it,
Because if you start to be the comic on the left, like Hassan Minhaj, is that the guy who just got in hot water?
Yeah, he got in hot water.
If you want to be that guy, they're going to find something on you.
Yeah.
The other side is going to dig up shit on you. Have you ever gotten stuff thrown at you?
No, just from the only thing that was thrown at me was when the people who had been my fans, who always said, "God, it's so great you go after both sides."
Yeah,
felt that you don't go, but literally went, you don't go after Trump,
right?
And then and started showing up at the shows and yelling and couldn't.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit. That was a regular thing that happened?
Yeah, for a while I was, and then, which is why in the special that I have out now is that that was the speech I do every night, which is the speech I do for all comics, which is, this is what happens when you go to a show.
Yeah.
Here's what you have to do. You haven't been out in a long time, and now you're going to have to remember, and you're going to have to, shut the fuck up. And it was all about shutting the fuck up.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that's it. People pay good money. You know, I know it's a shock. Yeah. I have an audience here that's overpaid.
Yeah.
You know, to be in these seats. But that's the kind of it, you know, and because it was happening. And then when after the pandemic, I was not going to put up with it anymore. I'm tired of it. You don't get to do that.
Well, it's sort of like, you know, art by definition is life through somebody else's perspective. And when that movie, the Barbie movie came out, okay, here's this director who has proved herself a number of times as being one of the best in the business. And now she's going to take on an iconic figure that has always been, you know, a lightning rod for like, oh, she's giving women a bad body image, and other people saying, well, this is wholesome Americana. And she took it on, and the right decided that this was somehow an affront to them. And it became a political film. It was a movie about dolls. It was a silly, colorful, inventive movie that had a point of view. As a female director.
And had a really good and had a great speech that every young girl... I said that there are two things that I thought were, you know, I wanted to write a book or, you know, it might even just be a chapter where you kind of go through where movies, but like Inside Out, which I did, I always thought was stunning because when you and I were born and raised, no one talked about emotions.
Right.
It wasn't even discussed.
Yeah.
You know, and so all of a sudden you had being thrown in front of 5-year-olds, this is what's going on in you.
Yeah.
And that to me was breakthrough. That to me was massive.
Right.
You know, I said, that was like, to me, I said, you know, that would have saved me $30,000 in therapy. Yeah. You know, I just thought I was hungry.
Right.
And then you go to Barbie and you've got her speech about women and you kind of go, wow, that speech was, somebody wrote it, they wrote it well. Yeah. Everyone who's been through that time frame as you and I have, and especially women, that's a 5-year-old, 10-year-old girl hearing that, her life has changed.
Right.
She didn't have to go through all of this shit to get to the thought. The thought's there, it's done, let's move on.
Right. Yeah.
And you're right about that. And then they make it. And that's not what they, you know, and they don't even focus on that. They always kind of, they're like firing guns. Can I help you aim?
Yeah.
You're gonna yell.
Well, can I help you aim? And can I help you see that you're allowed to go on somebody else's ride without necessarily becoming that person?
Yeah.
You can say, oh, wow, this is how some people think about this. I may not agree with it. I may not support it. But I don't have to get angry and protest against it. It can exist. So I was thinking about you and the Friars Club. You know, the Friars Club recently went out of business. And we had a lot of good times there.
Boy, that was great.
Yeah. I mean, they used to do
and
these shows.
We should explain for those out there who probably don't even know, the Friars Club was really literally the as close as comics came to a union.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it was a union. It was a resource. It was definitely a place where you could get work.
Yep.
It was a place where, I mean, you mean a union in the sense that people could support each other?
Yeah, and then we gathered together. That it was a place where it was like a union hall.
We
hadn't really organized.
Yeah.
But it was a place where comics could gather.
Yeah.
As opposed to a comedy club.
Right.
You know, that it was a club where comics could get together and sit around and all of a sudden you were in the room with that generation of comics which had already left the clubs,
right,
who'd gone through all sorts of their stuff, and you could sit around with like Freddie Roman, and
Malzy Lawrence and Dick Capri,
and you'd get to see him work, and you'd go, you know that, and you'd sit there and go, that joke isn't funny, and I'm laughing my ass off.
Yeah, the presentation. Those guys would show up, and they'd come to the club with a hanger, with a valise, and they would go into the men's room, and they would take a steam and a shower, and then they would put on their clothes. Yeah. And the famous thing was always they would never put on their pants until right before they went on because they wanted the crease to be firm. And their shoes were polished. And I remember who was the guy? Alan King had a briefcase. because he had a certain type of vodka that he liked. And he would open it in the green room, and it had a glass, and it had the fruit in a baggie, and it had his vodka. And he would set it up. And these guys were just, this is what they did for 40 years.
Yeah, and go on, I'm sorry.
Oh, and the act didn't necessarily change a lot, but you didn't care. You really enjoyed hearing some of the same jokes over and over again because the presentation was so great.
The delivery was something that we got something from and took it to a different place.
Yeah.
But those guys knew how to tell. They would tell a joke. They would tell a story as well as you could tell a story.
Yes.
Just within a joke, and which is, and I worked with. Speaking of the Alan King reminded me, I worked with Shelley Berman once, which was like great.
Yeah.
In a theater in Arizona, and he was just a sweetheart, but as neurotic as anybody I've ever worked.
Right.
He made you and I look so sane. But he sat on his act. He would sit on the stool. He would sit on the stool, and he brought that stool everywhere. He didn't. No, I'm serious.
No.
You imagine he brought the stool on the plane. He had a thing. I'm back there. He's putting the stool away.
That's crazy.
Going, you do this every. I said, and I literally, because I did that thing. I had no. I went, you're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
What are you kidding me? And he said, I said, why do you do that? I said, I use a different stool, but I don't sit on the stool. But why do you do this? And he said, because those stools change height, and I want it. Right. This is what I do, and this is what I'm comfortable, and this is what makes. And I went, okay, but wow.
Yeah, his security blanket.
But and that that was his set.
Yeah,
I mean, his physical set.
Right.
Didn't
he used to sit on a stool and pull a newspaper out and read from the newspaper?
That was Mort Saul.
Oh, that was Mort Saul.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shelley Berman told stories.
Yeah.
And then got on the phone and then got upset because what Bob Newhart got on the phone.
And then Ellen DeGeneres. Yeah. Right.
And it really, I'm going, it's two different phones. You fucking. But those two had a big effect on me, both Berman and Newhart.
Yeah.
Because they were so present and were breakthrough comics. Had albums before. I'm listening. We're just around the time when George is breaking toward coming out and going, really, just going, okay, that's it. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
but I remember that. Did you ever see Catskills on Broadway, which was all the Friars Club guys?
No, I never did.
It was the most beautiful moment because here's these guys that came up in the 40s and 50s going to the Catskills, and they would start out as barkers, and they had this job where you were paid as a comedian to mingle and be funny. There was no stage or spotlight, there was no microphone, but they wanted the camps. They were basically adult summer camps that people would go to. There's bungalows and pools, and it was all Jewish, and they would walk around and just be funny and cheer up the crowd and just be goofballs. And then if they were good enough, then they got to go on stage. Yeah. And then they became great comics. And then they worked, the Playboy clubs, and if they were lucky, they got to open for Sinatra or Tony Bennett or Vic Damone.
Yeah.
And they made a really nice living, and they bought houses in New City, which was halfway between the Catskills and the city.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
And then
New City, which is where I play golf now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so then they hit this kind of lull where the big touring acts weren't doing it that way anymore, and they were too old for the stand-up comedy clubs that were breaking out. So they did Jewish country clubs, and they did what's the condos down in Florida that they all play?
Yeah, I know.
The Villages.
The Villages.
Yeah, the Villages. And so they were getting by, and then all of a sudden Freddie Roman, who was my sponsor at the Friars Club,
is that right?
He came up with this idea, and he said, "We're going to Broadway," and he got. Dick Capri, Mousy Lawrence, and who was the woman that did it?
The woman was, God damn it.
Adrian, or no?
No, it wasn't Adrian Tolsch.
No.
It was somebody who did she do voices?
Yeah. She did voices.
And I can't think that's as far as
I'll look it up and I'll say it in the intro.
And
later.
the train wrecked.
Yeah.
That's where the train I watched it, and then just went into flames. And I saw her charred remains, and I can't remember the name. Fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm gonna get her dental records, and I'll say it in the intro. But they went on Broadway, and it turned into a hit, and people were lining up to go see these guys who were doing jokes about the old days in the Catskills and being Jewish, and it was totally accessible. I mean, I'm an Irish kid that grew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like you said, it's the delivery. It was, here's a story. I get to go sit and watch somebody else's story, and they didn't preclude you from it. They explained. I remember him saying one of his jokes was, "So this schmuck." And for you non-Jews out there, a schmuck is a guy that gets out of the shower to take a piss.
Really.
And so they had this nice comeback, and it was just really, it was really nice.
Yeah, no, it was really, I mean, and we got a lot out of the club because of that. You know?
Right.
And then you also, and then there were those who there always were, whose names I don't even remember, but that were God, I hope I don't end up like that schmuck.
Yeah, you know? Right.
There were those around. There were those who, and then they did that thing where you knew we were fading as soon as they started. Let's get other people. Let's get guys who want to be in the club but aren't really comics. And then that was when it started to begin to crash and burn.
Yeah, I think it was like there was a membership rate if you were in the entertainment business, and then there was a higher rate if you were a furrier or, in the insurance. There was a lot of furriers.
That's really good, a furrier. Wow.
And so
he said they'll boycott this episode just because you said the word furrier.
And then we do these shows like, Ruth Stern was one of these women who was...
Wow, I can't believe we remembered that name.
Yeah.
You remembered that name and we didn't remember the other name.
Right. And she would come out and she would book comedians, and she would do these Jewish country clubs. And when we were struggling, you were one of these guys, there was like you and Ray Romano and a couple of the people that everybody watched every night and went, this guy's a fucking star. Like, what's going on? And you were just going up and doing your $20 spots like everybody else, and Ray's doing his $20 spots. And then all of a sudden, it just it exploded. But at that time, these Jewish country clubs were a really nice paycheck when you were used to getting $20.
Yeah, no kidding.
Drive out to Long Island and, make a couple grand or whatever.
Yeah, but I never got that.
Oh, you didn't do those?
No, I got one.
Really?
Yeah. And there was one I had, when the Catskills was dying, I had like a bungalow colony or something up there. Yeah, sure, but $800, fuck me.
Yeah, right. So what did you do during those years? I would say this would have been like the 90s for you, like late 80s to
well, then I
90s.
was running the West Bank. I ran that club, the West Bank, and that's what I ran. And then I, in the late, about 90, 91, I go, the West Bank, we get thrown out of the West Bank because they think that Steve Olson, who was running it, was making a fortune off of doing one-act plays, which is what we were doing in the basement.
Really?
Yeah, he had two partners that he referred to as null and void, and they thought that he was like scamming them for money, and it was like, no, you idiot, this is what we're doing. So they said, well, we're going to take it over. Well, they took it over, and then so I moved over and started working at Catch, and then
Catch a Rising Star on the East Side,
on the East Side, and from there I moved, and then they started moving me into their clubs, and then I just started. I went on the road, and I just started working whenever I could, and with my agent Roger Paul.
Oh my God, Roger Paul, Tony Camacho.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tony Camacho was this guy. He was a black guy who was an agent, and he drives me out one night to somewhere in like Rockland County or North Jersey, and we're doing a country club date. And I don't know why the fuck he's coming with me. I think we were good friends, and he just wanted to hang out.
Yeah.
And so the name of the club, it was a country club, was called the White Beaches. And so we're driving to get there, and there's no GPS back there. I don't know if we had a map, but we got lost, and we stopped for directions. And he rolls down the window, and he goes, "Excuse me, where's the White Beaches at?" And as we say it, we just start laughing. I don't know if we even got the directions because we started laughing so hard. So were those lean years? Were you a Hell's Kitchen guy back then? Is that where you lived?
Yeah, I was living in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, so were those lean years for you?
Well, I mean, working at the West Bank was lean, but it was great.
Yeah.
You know, because the only thing that I lacked was health insurance. Otherwise, I was, you know,
right.
I didn't have any money in the bank, but I had money. I had always had money. Nothing that would allow me to get anything special, but, you know, I was fine.
Right.
And then when I started working the clubs, it was initially just enough, and then it started to work. But even just that income was more, because I made the transition at around 90. I had a play done in Houston, Texas, and Rusty wrote the music. I wrote the book. Rand, who was the director down there, the director at the West Bank, we'd done this. Now we're going to expand. It was a one act. We're going to expand it to 2 acts. It had been like a 75-minute musical. We're going to make it 90. We take it down there, and they just fuck us over every possible way. And so I'm supposed to stay on down there. I got no money to do what I'm doing. I'm making just enough.
Right.
We have to get rid of one of the actors, and we're at a major. This is a major repertory theater, the Alley Theater.
Are you in it, or are you just producing?
No,
it?
I wrote the book.
Right.
Rusty wrote the music and lyrics. Rand's directing. We got actors from New York. One of the actors, we've said nope. We're supposed to have a certain amount of New York actors. They lied about it. And then we said nope. We need to get we need this other actor from New York. They took money from Rusty and I to pay for the actor.
Oh, no
So
shit.
now I'm making less. Then I was supposed to be able to stay on because we're rewriting, and Rusty had a family at that point. He's going to go back. But I'm going to stay there and watch it and try to figure out what we need to do to rewrite it.
Right.
They were supposed to give me just a place to stay. I have zip money. They go, well, we can't give you a place to stay. We don't have that. I'm going, okay, you fuck.
Yeah.
So I go across town to a place I don't know if you Spellbinders, not the Houston Club, which was a great fucking place that I can't think of the name of.
Laugh Stop?
Laugh Stop.
Yeah.
So
Babbitt.
Mark Babbitt.
Yeah.
And I go across town to this place called Spellbinders, which was comedy and magic.
Uh-huh.
And I audition there, and I'm doing okay. I mean, I got enough chops that I can headline, but I need to kill.
Yeah.
When I'm auditioning, and I kill.
Uh-huh.
And I do 15 minutes. And he comes up, he goes, that's great. He said, I have a fallout in 4 weeks. Would you want to come back and headline?
Uh-huh.
I said, sure. He said, we'll give you the same amount of money, $1,500, same amount I was getting for a play that I spent 3 years working on. $1,500, going to put you up in this hotel, better place than where I'm staying, and we're going to give you a car. Rusty and I had to rent a car. I'm going, ball game's over.
Yeah, right.
Goodbye, theater.
Right.
I'm done.
But you're not done, because you used to go up to Williamstown in Massachusetts in the summers and do
right.
theater.
Yeah, no, I came back because I could afford to hang out.
It was a hobby at that point.
And because it was a transition from at that point when I started doing that, things were starting to take off a bit, but it was really a way that I could get a supplement to my income that I needed.
Yeah.
And got to teach stand-up and did like 2 or 3 plays a summer, did in small roles. And I ended up because of all that, of getting a pension from equity.
From equity. Any of your students ever go anywhere?
Not that I know of. No, it's too bad because some of them.
I could have sworn you were going to say somebody good there.
No, but there were some really. I had some kids who were terrific.
Yeah.
And they went on and must have done other things because it was remarkable. I mean, I'll run into a few of them now and then, and then they'll tell me I said, what stories you do, and I remember them immediately.
Yeah.
But they would go. These kids would, I would say, whatever you do afterwards, don't get in touch. Okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Because all I was doing was
I'm
trying
not
to...
a mentor.
What I'm doing is trying to give you the experience of stand-up and give you a monologue. So if you have to go audition for something,
right.
This is the monologue you're going to use rather than, something from like the Glass Menagerie
right.
or whatever. They're going to hear 1,000 monologues that you're going to do. This will define, because the nice thing about stand-up is it basically defines, when you're up there doing it, it defines who you are.
Yeah.
And so that the schmuck who is the casting director can go,
right.
They could do this.
And they remember you.
Yeah. So hopefully they use that. But what was funny was I would tell them, don't get in touch. And then I'd take one or two aside that were really stellar and go, look, I'm just going to tell you, if you ever want to try this while you're waiting around for theater, do it.
Yeah.
It'll allow you to get up. It'll allow you to, and that's really what I told all of them. Get up there.
Right.
This will allow you. You've got comics who are competing for your jobs. Go compete for their jobs.
Right.
But at least you don't need to go to this is a way in which you can continue to work without, until what you're going to do in between. This will gives you it's stage time.
Right.
So, but none of the ones that I ever told to get in touch got in touch. But every
they're in Tanglewood. You're not getting the gritty urban stand-up comics that are like, going after it.
But what's funny is
they're going to see James Taylor after class in the grass.
But what was funny was there always was the one, and it happened twice, that I have my feeling is that there are people who don't have that my feeling is that there isn't anyone everyone has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And that's a myth, but and the reason everyone there are people who don't have a sense of humor is because it's a muscle that is never taught.
Right.
It's a muscle that you go through school, nobody ever teaches comedy in any form from the time you go through public education. Mm-hmm. And so but I two of these kids who the muscle was, I didn't even think the muscle was even in the room.
Yeah.
But those were two who approached me.
Yeah.
And I came to New York once when I was still kind of wandering in and out and coming out from being on the road. And I'd come in and I went to some room to see somebody I knew who was, and not a club, but just and there was this kid who was just not funny.
Yeah.
On stage, still not being funny.
Yeah.
And still doing it. And I was like, well, what are you going to do? You got to admire the...
Well, dude, how many guys at the comic strip? Guys that were at the comic strip every night, 6 nights a week for 20 years with no progress. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but you don't even know the names, but you know the faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you saw them sitting at the bar, and they'd get up at 1:15, and you just wanted to pull them aside and go. But then you go, why? Why? Yeah. This guy's probably a postal worker. Yeah. He comes out at night. He's having a blast. He gets to hang out with Louie C.K. and Todd Barry, and then he gets to be a comic.
Yeah.
So what? He's not hurting anybody.
No, and in the end, I've always thought too that it was the other thing about doing stand-up was it certainly gave you a sense of if you did it, you ended up with self-confidence.
Yes.
You may not be funny, but if you get up there and you do that in front of a whole bunch of people enough, it's not going to be tough.
Isn't it amazing when you see somebody hit a new gear, confidence-wise?
Yeah.
It's uncanny. I mean, I've seen it happen saw it happen with Gaffigan, Geraldo, all those guys. They just suddenly figured out. I don't even want to put into words because it's not. I don't want to say all the cliches. He found his voice or whatever. But there's just some point where you don't give a shit, and then it kicks in. The second you don't give a shit, all of a sudden you walk on stage and you can explore jokes that you wouldn't have explored before. And you don't care if they don't work because it's getting you closer to where you really want to be.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
I hope I hit it at some point, Louis.
You will.
All right, listen, before you go, I want to mention that you've got some tour dates coming up we mentioned before. What's the name of you named your tour?
The name of my tour is Off the Rails.
Okay, well, there you go, Louis. You came up with a name for your tour. Now you're officially a comedian. Tour dates coming up October 21st in Cincinnati.
Yep.
October 26th in Knoxville.
Yep.
The 27th in Birmingham. And
Alabama.
Biloxi, Grand Rapids, South Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota. I'm not mentioning the ones that are sold out.
Yeah.
These are the ones that still have tickets. Most of the shows are sold out.
No, but thank you.
No, it says it says fuck off on it.
No.
Yeah,
No,
on your website.
No, it's the Fuck You Fan Club.
Oh, I thought that meant fuck you. We got no tickets left.
No, that's very kind. Maybe that's what's happening. No, what it means, I have a fan club called Fuck You. And this is what
that's hilarious.
Here's how amazing people are. You put that out there. So for $20, what it allows you to do is to not have to deal with Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
So, and it's $20, which is less than Ticketmaster.
Right.
And a human being has to deal with the tickets, sales, and everything. You get tickets in the first 10 rows.
Right.
So you're going to get the best seats in the house and you don't have to deal, and you talk to a human being.
Yeah.
And the ticket is there. And when you arrive there, you get a real ticket, not this bullshit with Ticketmaster. And people still go, well, you fucking boy, you're making a fortune off of this. Shut the fuck, it's
right.
No, what you're doing is you're allowing people not to get scalped.
Right.
Or it's like, stop pushing that button because it's driving you into the wrong lane, which will take you to StubHub, and then you'll pay $700 for the ticket that you would have paid. So that's the fan club is called Fuck You.
Well, I'm leaving out some dates, everybody. If you want to see all of them, he's also going to Saginaw, Michigan, Kalamazoo, Traverse City, Troy, New York, Peekskill, Waterbury, Connecticut, and then somehow you're going to make your way to New London, Connecticut the next night, all the way from Waterbury.
Yep.
Isn't that the same audience?
I don't know. There's a big, a big water there, and there's no bridge, and they have to paddle over. I have no idea. Look,
is that what Chappaquiddick is?
Chappaquiddick.
And then Rocky.
But yeah, that is funny. It is Waterbury to New London, but they're kind of far apart. It's an hour and a half or some shit.
And then this goes all the way through May, where you end up with some dates in Europe. Obviously. There's very few people in the business that have made it to the point of success that you did, and the respect in my heart that I have for you.
Thank you.
And thanks for
it's a pleasure to see you. Because the thing is this, people move out here, and then we disappear.
Yeah. Right.
Because you all of a sudden sired a child, and the child got way older than it should be under your tutelage.
I know. Jesus.
But it's great to be able to talk.
As opposed to 5 minutes at the back of a comedy club where you say hi and all that. So this was great. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.